Okay, let's start now. Today I'm going to discuss with you calculus, and in this calculus we will discuss two parts. One is differentiation and other is integration. Okay, meaning of differentiation is, suppose you have a function. Now breaking the function into small parts is called as the process of differentiation. Breaking a function into small parts is differentiation. Differentiation means nothing but to differentiate. Okay. Differentiate means breaking into parts, small parts. Breaking the function into small parts, that is differentiation. Integration is you have the parts, now uniting them or combining them to get a function is integration. Integration means to integrate. You have the small parts and you will integrate all those parts to get the value of a function for a bigger aspect. That is integration. So it means that differentiation and integration, they are reverse process of each other. Breaking into parts is differentiation and joining the parts to form the function is integration. Okay, so we will start with differentiation first and then we will move on to integration. Before starting differentiation, I want to discuss with you a few terms which are very important. First is, you know that what is a constant? What is a constant? A constant is a quantity whose value is fixed. Whose value is fixed means the value of that quantity does not change with the condition. For example, if you have 2x equals to 8. So, if you have 2x equals to 8, then the value of this quantity and this quantity, okay, will not change. Or suppose you can take this one. You have 2x equals to 8, you have 2x equals to 14, or you have 2x equals to 16. Now the value of this quantity will not change. It implies that here x is 4, here x is 7 and here x is 8. So the value of x is changing according to the situation, but there is a quantity whose value is not changing according to the situation. So this quantity is constant, this quantity is variable. That quantity that takes the value according to the situation. Now here next term comes up is a function. Function. We generally denote a function by fx. Y equals to fx. Suppose y equals to fx is a function. Now here I will give you an example. Like suppose y is equal to sine x, or y is equal to x square, or y is equal to under root x plus 1. Right? Now what you have here, you have two variables, 1, 2. Two variables you have, and you have a kind of operation. Here operation is taking the sign ratio. Here the operation is squaring. Here operation is, here you have two operations. First is addition of 1 and then next operation is taking the square root. Is the board visible? Can you see what I am writing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Are you getting this? So function is nothing but a process, is a kind of operation that is applied on one variable, on one quantity, and you get the other quantity. Now, so it means you are applying, this is a general f. F is representing generally a function. It can be a sine, it can be cos, it can be tan, it can be squaring, it can be addition of 7, 1, it can be taking the square root. So this f can have different meanings in different situations. So f is a kind of process that is applied where this f is applied. It is applied on x. F is applied on x and we get the value y. When the function is applied on x, you are getting the value y. Suppose if you have x equals to 10y. Now the function is of the form x equals to fy. Means you must try to understand this, that this is only a general notation. The variables can be changed also. Suppose you have z equals to sine m. So here this function is z equals to fm. It is of the form z equals to fm because you are applying a function on m and you are getting z. Right? Now this value on this quantity on which the function is applied is called as pre-image. Pre-image, and the quantity that you get as a result after application of the function is called as image. Is called as the image. So this is pre-image, this is image. Now x can take different values because suppose if it is sine, if the function is sine x, so what can you place at x? You can place any angle for the value of x because you can find sine ratio for any value. So it means that if you can place x, suppose if I give you an example, x belongs to suppose 0 to pi. I give you I think you already know that what is the difference between this bracket and this bracket. Because
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? This is open bracket, means
yes,
0
sir.
and pi are not included, just greater than 0 and just less than 0, just greater than 0 and just less than pi, these values are included in the set. But this is not this is not important from my point of view, because in physics we do not need this. What I just wanted to tell you is, suppose x, I am keeping the value of x from here to here, then this becomes a set. This is a set, and this set will be called as domain. Domain means the set whose value, you can say x is a element. Your x on which you are applying the function, that x belongs to a set, and that set is called as the set of domain. Means the set of all those values which can be substituted for x here. Right? Now, what is y? Y is, you are applying x, you are applying the function on these values and you will get some values as a result. That set which you will get on application of, you will get another set, and that set you are getting by applying the function on different values of x. So you get a set of images. You will get a set of images, and that will be called as range. That is called as range. Okay, range is all those values which you get as a result. That will be the range. So this you will come across in your mathematics classes in depth. So I'm leaving it for those classes, not going to that depth. What we need is some basic knowledge of this function. What is a function? Function is an operation that is carried out on some quantity. That quantity is called as the pre-image. To which set that quantity belongs is called as the domain set. After application of function, you get a set of values as a result. Those values individually are called as images, and the set of those images is called as the range. So it is like this. So this is about the function. So we can have different functions. The general notation for function is y is equal to fx. Okay. Now first of all, how we will note, what is the notation for differentiation? How you will represent differentiation of a function? If you have y equals to fx, a function is a function, then y dash differentiation derivative of the function. When you differentiate a function, the result you get is called as the derivative. When you differentiate this function, the result will be called as the derivative of the function. So derivative will be denoted by either by y dash, or sometimes it is denoted by y1. In some books it will be denoted by y1. In some books it is denoted as f dash x. Okay, and in some cases it will be denoted by dy by dx. All the four notations means the same thing. The meaning is same, and it means derivative of the given function. Either you write y dash or y1 or f dash x or dy by dx. This is again my request to all of you, please join before 8:30. The link will be open at 8:20 and please try to join before 8:30, because otherwise during the lecture it becomes difficult for me to go other side and admit you. Alright, so this is your notation for derivative of a function. Okay. Now, how we find out the derivative actually? So derivative, the method of finding. Method of finding. Okay, let me tell you one thing, that what is derivative? What does it mean? Suppose you have x and you have fx. Means this is your image axis, this is your pre-image axis. This is the pre-image axis, this is your image axis, and you are getting a graph this time. So you can see that the graph is not a straight line. Graph is not a straight line. Means suppose if suppose we want to find out, we have a graph. Suppose this is your time. I am giving you an example. This is your time axis and this is your suppose displacement axis. Now time axis with displacement axis will give you, or we can name it as position. Suppose a car is going from Pilani to Delhi, and we draw the graph for the motion of the car, and we draw the position time graph, and the graph is not a straight line. Now how you find out the velocity, how you will find out the velocity of the car? So velocity, you will consider 2 point of times, t1 and t2, and you will take the positions as x1 and x2. You consider 2 point of times. Suppose you want to find out that how much was the velocity of the car during this interval from t1 to t2. Then you will note down the positions of the car at t1, x1 and t2, x2. Now you will find out the total displacement, that is x2 minus x1 upon t2 minus t1. This is the total displacement upon total time taken, and that is your velocity. But which velocity? This is your average velocity. Average velocity means that the car started from Pilani and reached to Delhi. Suppose 4 hours, and let us suppose that distance is 200 kilometer. The car traveled from Pilani to Delhi 200 kilometer distance in 4 hours. So it means that the velocity is 50 kilometer per hour. Correct? So 50 kilometer per hour is the velocity. Now, does it mean that the car throughout traveled with the velocity of 50 kilometers per hour? No, because the car will travel. It means that because the practical situation is this, that this is the average velocity. Means the car would have moved at a speed of more than 50 km per hour when it was on highway. Okay, when it entered into the cities like Rewari or somewhere, the congested cities, it is not possible to maintain a speed of 50 km per hour. So it doesn't mean that the car throughout traveled with a speed of 50 km per hour. It means that it was the average velocity. Now if you find out so this is your average velocity, so you can easily find out the average velocity. What about the suppose if you want to find out that what is the instantaneous velocity, how much was the velocity at any particular time? Once again, I would like to draw another graph. Suppose you get a graph of this nature, straight line. Then you can easily say that the velocity, suppose you take t1, this is t2, this is x1 and this is x2. In case you have a straight line graph, then your average velocity itself will be the instantaneous velocity. That is fine. Means no need to separately, means if suppose I ask you that what was the velocity, if this is the kind of graph, it means that once again I am just try to differentiate the two graphs. Here you have a straight line. It means that the car traveled with a uniform speed. So suppose the uniform speed means the velocity was not changing. So it means that suppose if I say that the car is traveling with a uniform velocity of 50 km per hour. So what was the velocity at any particular time? It will remain 50 km per hour. Suppose from T1 to T2 it traveled, suppose with a speed of V. Then what will be the velocity of the car at this T time? It will remain V because the graph is a straight line. But here you cannot say like this. Here you cannot say that the instantaneous velocity means the velocity at any time was same as 50 km per hour, because it will depend on the time. If the point of time you are choosing, if the point of time is that when the car was on highway, that velocity would have been more than 50 km per hour. And if that point of time is you are choosing is the time when the car was inside a congested city, so that time the velocity would have been less than 50 km per hour. So in such type of case, it is a important thing to calculate the instantaneous velocity. Now instantaneous velocity, how you will get the instantaneous velocity? This is a time interval. Now if you decrease the time interval, I brought this t1 here and this t2 here. This is the strip I am getting. I brought this t1 here and t2 here, means I decreased the size of the gap between t1 and t2. Now t1 to t2 is a time interval. If you decrease the size of time interval, if you go on decreasing the size of time interval, then the situation where t1 and t2 nearly overlap, then this time interval will change to instant. I think you can easily understand this. The time interval, if you go on decreasing the time interval, at some particular point, this t1 and t2 will become so close to each other that they will be nearly on the same point, and that interval will become the instant. So what we have to do is, we will means for this, if you will bring them closer, your x1 and x2 will also come closer, x1, x2. So now again x2 minus x1 upon t2 minus t1. This remains your velocity, but now what condition you have applied is, you have given a limiting condition that suppose this is delta t, t2 minus t1 is suppose delta t. Delta refers to change, the change in t. this is change in x. Now what condition you have given is the change in time is infinitesimally small, is so small that the time interval becomes the instant, and this will be your v instantaneous. Instantaneous velocity is the rate of change of position given that the change in time is infinitesimally small. This term, this was an example. Okay, we use this in several conditions. Whenever you want to find out suppose you want to find out instantaneous acceleration, then also it will be limit delta t tends to 0 and delta v upon delta t, rate of change of velocity given that the time change in time is infinitesimally small. So this is nothing but your differentiation. Now I will come to my topic, back to my topic again. So suppose this is your graph, this was x1, this is x2, and you have a function y equals to fx. So this is your fx1 and this is fx2. So for x1, x2 you have the values of the function fx1, fx2. So the rate of this change, this is fx x2 minus fx2 minus fx1 is the change in image. fx2 minus fx1 is the change in image. x2 minus x1 is the change in your that pre-image. So the rate, this is your rate of change of image with respect to the change in pre-image. This is a quantity. Now when you apply this condition, limit x2 minus x1 tends to 0, means this change is infinitesimally small. This becomes your derivative of the function. This becomes your derivative. This is the expression to, this is the definition to find out the, means definition of derivative, and this is actually the method by which we find the derivative. It is, derivative is nothing but the rate of change of image of the function with respect to the change in pre-image of the function, given that the change in pre-image is infinitesimally small, is very small. So you can further write this as limit delta x tends to 0 f x2 minus f x1 upon delta x. Now for the solving purpose, for means to find out the derivative, when you will find out the derivative of the function, we change this definition a little bit, and that will be my actual definition which I will be writing here, and that definition we will use to find out the derivative of different functions. Suppose this is your x1, x2. Now we choose we choose a particular x, this one, and there the value of the function is fx. Suppose for this the value of the function is fx. Now I make a small change in x. Small change in x means suppose x plus h. I made a small change and I reached here, and here what is h? H is so small that h is 0, nearly 0. There is a difference between h tends to 0 and h equal to 0. It means that h is equal to 0, and here h tends to 0 means that h is so small that it is nearly 0, not 0 but nearly 0. So this is if this h is nearly 0, that means this gap is so small. If this gap is small, then you will get here another value for fx, and that will be f of x plus h. F of x plus h. So now what is the change in what is the change in image? It is f of x plus h minus f of x. when you consider this infinitesimally small condition, the value of image changes from fx to f of x plus h. So f of x plus h minus fx is the change in image. And what is the change in pre-image? It is x plus h minus x. X plus h minus x. That is the change in image. Now, what is the condition? Limit h tends to 0. This is very much important. If you are not using this, then you are getting, whatever you are getting is the average value. That is not your instantaneous value. So, to get the instantaneous value, you need this. This is very much important. This limiting condition is very much important. So, what your finally function becomes f of x plus h minus fx upon h. X and minus x will get cancelled, and this is your f dash x. This is the definition of, this is the formula of finding the derivative by the definition. So now here you can easily understand that the definition of a derivative, it is what do you understand by derivative? Derivative is nothing but the rate of change of image with respect to the change in pre-image, given that the change in pre-image is infinitesimally small. What we get with this thing, we get the instantaneous values. Like means I'm telling you the applications of this in real life applications. Real life applications are finding the instantaneous velocity, finding the instantaneous acceleration, and when we will proceed into the syllabus, you will find that this will be used in many conditions. Okay, so means in 11th 12th physics, this calculus part is too much important, is so much important that you cannot move a single step without the knowledge of calculus. Okay, so this is your definition. Now this formula is called as first principle. This formula is called as first principle. First principle of finding the derivative. Now, I would like to discuss with you a small topic again. What is the geometrical meaning of What is the geometrical meaning of finding the derivative? Geometrically, what does it mean? Means वैसे simply what we discussed, that it means nothing but find the ratio of the change in image to the change in pre-image, given that the change in pre-image is infinitesimally small. That is your arithmetical meaning. Now, what is the geometrical meaning? What does it mean geometrically? Suppose you draw the graph. You have x-axis, you have fx. Now you draw the graph like this. Okay. Suppose we have a curve. Let us take a simple one. This one, or let us take this one. Okay. Now I'm going to discuss about the geometrical meaning, right? So we take 2 points, x1, x2. Now their function values at x1, x2 are fx1, fx2. Now, before proceeding, let me discuss with you one term which is called as slope. Slope of curve or slope of the graph. What does it mean, the slope? Suppose you have slides. One slide is this, and other slide is this one. Okay. Let me please change this figure because I will have to tell you something here. you have two different figures. Okay. Suppose we all have generally we have ramps on the gates of our houses. You must have seen. Generally we have these ramps. Now, if suppose we have a ramp of either this or this nature. Now, if you want to take up a bicycle or suppose a scooty inside your house, if you want to take the scooty, then which ramp will be more appropriate, the first one or the second one? Please answer me.
First one.
First one. Okay.
First one.
Yes, first one. The reason is here the inclination, here the length is more, so it means that what you will say, steep, something is some word we use, we say that thing is more steep here in this case and less steep here. What is that word? We call the name of a word and we say that thing is more steep and less steep here. What is that? Steep.
No.
Slope, right. Slope is less steep here and slope is more steep. This is something called as slope, right? Slope means if you consider the angle, means slope is related to something like this angle. Now, if this angle is theta 1 is less than theta 2, then you will say that the slope is small and the slope is high, right? Theta 1 is less than theta 2, slope of this first figure is less than the slope of second figure. So it means that slope is something related to angle made by the curve or the graph with positive direction of x-axis. This is your x-axis. This is the positive direction of x-axis. This one. This is the positive direction of x-axis. So the angle made by the graph with positive direction of x-axis is called as the slope. Now in all the cases you cannot find you will not be given the angle of the graph. Suppose this is the case. Now here you don't have any angle. So it is difficult to find out the slope. No, we have formula. What is that formula? What you need to find out slope is, now I am giving you the definition. Slope is tangent of the angle made by the curve with positive direction of x-axis. Now slope 1 is equal to tan theta 1. Now slope is related to the opposite side, the ratio of opposite side to the base. Here suppose h is the height. Here h is the same height. Your house is at the same height. But here you prepared a slope which is longer in length. x1 is more than x2. So h upon x1 and h upon x2, which one will be more? H upon x1?
H upon x2.
Yes, h upon x2 will be more than h upon x1. Right? Now it means that h upon x1, can you say that this is tan theta 1 is less than tan theta 2? Because h upon x1 is tan theta 1, h upon x2 is tan theta 2. And tan theta is what? It is slope of 1 is less than slope of 2. Right? So that's why if slope is low, then you need less force to take your scooty or your vehicle up to the point, from this point to this point. So this is something called as slope in general life. This is slope general life. So how you find out the slope? Tangent of the angle made by the plane or the line or the curve with positive direction of x-axis. That is your slope. Now if you are not given the positive angle, the angle with the positive direction of x-axis, then suppose this is your condition and you have a line like this, then what you will do, suppose you are not given the angle but you are given 2 points, x1, y1 and x2, y2, right? You are given 2 points because if you want to draw a line, either they will give you something they will have to give you. You will be given at least with 2 points and 2 points are given means their coordinates will be given to you, and with the help of those coordinates you can draw the line. So now you have drawn a line with the help of the coordinates of the 2 points. Now let us expand this. This is your angle, and tangent of this angle, tan theta, is your slope. We generally denote this slope by small m. Mathematically, generally we denote the slope by small m. So small m, your m is tan theta. Now we will find out, but theta is not given to us. What we are given? We are given x1, y1, x2, y2. So what I will do, I will draw perpendiculars from here, and I will draw this one. So if this angle is theta, you can easily understand that this angle will be theta, because this line and this line are parallel to each other, so they are corresponding angles. So tan theta I wanted to find means this length. Suppose I name this as, if I name it as A, B, and my perpendicular is M. So what is slope? Slope is tan theta. And how much is tan theta? Tan theta is BM upon AM. BM upon AM. Now how much will be BM? How much is this length? This is y2. And what is this length? y1, because the coordinates of this point is y1, so this height is y1. So how much is this length? y2 minus y1. How much is this length? This point is x2, this point is x1, so what is this length? x2 minus x1. So what is tan theta? It is y2 minus y1 upon x2 minus x1, or this is change in y upon change in x, right? So the slope of a graph is change in y with respect to change in x. Okay, now this is your something related to the average value, velocity average or acceleration average. So if you want to find an average value, what you have to do, you simply find the slope of the line joining the 2 points. Now I move on to that one, this general graph. So now simply you remember that slope is nothing but the change in y upon change in x. What is y? Y is nothing but fx. Your y is nothing but fx. So you can write like this, or you can write like this: fx2 minus fx1 upon x2 minus x1. You can write like this also. Okay, y is nothing but fx, right? So let's come back to that situation, the general one. Okay, what are the coordinates of this point? It will be x1 comma fx1, right? X coordinate is x1 and y coordinate is fx1. Here the coordinates are x2 comma fx2. These are the coordinates. Now I join the points. Now what is my slope? M. It is fx2 minus fx1 upon x2 minus x1. This is the slope of the chord. Any line joining 2 points of the curve is called as a chord. So slope of the chord gives you the average value. Remember this. Slope of chord is equal to, it gives you the average value of rate of change of function with respect to change in rate of change of function with respect to the change in pre-image. Like suppose your velocity average or acceleration average. So if you wanted to find, if suppose this is a graph of position, if you have a position time graph, you want to find out an average velocity, you simply join any 2 points, means within which point of time you want, for a particular point of time interval, you want to find out the average velocity. So you just locate the points on the graph where corresponding to t1 and t2 and just find out this ratio, fx2 minus fx1 upon x2 minus x1. That will give you the average velocity. Simple, geometrical meaning. Now how to find out the instantaneous velocity? Suppose if I make this interval small, if I bring them here, and this is x1, this is x2, or you can say that this is x, this is x plus h. Then this chord, these 2 points will come here like this, and when you will join them, what you are getting, instead of chord, what you are getting the tangent, right? So now if you will find out, now you have 2 points, fx2, fx1, means x2, fx2 is this point, this one, and x1, fx1 is this point. What is now here your f x2 minus f x1 upon x2 minus x1, and what situation you have created, that you have you brought both of them x2 and x1 so close to each other that limit x2 minus x1 tends to 0. And what this is your definition for f dash x. So what is this? What simply is this? This is the limit h tends to 0, fx2 is f of x plus h, because your x2 is x plus h here, minus x1 is fx upon x plus h minus x will become h. So this becomes your, and what this geometrically is, what we found here, we found the slope of the tangent to the curve equals to slope of tangent to the curve. So now I am coming back to my point, the important point. Important point is that geometrically what does it mean? If you want to find out the average value, you will have to find the slope of the chord. Slope of the chord means the average value, and slope of the tangent means the derivative of the function. So finding the derivative means nothing but finding the slope of tangent to the curve. Okay, where at that particular point where you are finding the derivative. Suppose you are asked to find out the derivative of y equal to sin x and x equals to pi by 2. So where you are finding at x equals to pi by 2, you are finding the derivative. So derivative you will find out, and whatever derivative you get, you put there x equals to pi by 2. So you are finding the derivative at x equals to pi by 2 means nothing but you are finding the slope of the tangent to the curve. If you will draw the curve, if you will draw the graph for sin x, then at x equals to pi by 2 you are finding the slope of the tangent. Okay, this is the geometrical meaning of finding the derivative. So I discussed, means I went to the depth as far as possible, but I know that this is a little bit complex topic. This is completely new to you. When we will move through the syllabus, you will see that, means when we will discuss this again and again, then it will become clear to you. But today I try to explain, I try to explain in detail as far as possible, right? Yes, any question you have?
सर
Yeah.
सर sin x का भी ग्राफ होता है
Yes.
सर
Repeat.
sin x का भी ग्राफ बन सकता है
बिल्कुल sin x का ग्राफ बनेगा, हम आगे डिस्कस करेंगे, बिल्कुल बनेगा.
ओके
You can draw the graph for any function. Any function you can draw the graph for sin x, cos x, tan x, cosec x, everyone, x square, x cube. If you have a function, you can always draw the graph, because for a function you will have two values. X will be given to you, y you can find yourself. So if you have two values, x and y, can you locate the point? With
Yes,
two
sir.
coordinates, can you locate the point? Right?
Yes, sir.
So you will locate many points. You will take some x, you will take suppose 0, then what you get y. Suppose my function is y equals to sin x. So what will be my y? Sin 0 is 0. Now I take x equals to suppose 30 degree, right? 30 degree means nothing but pi by 6 radian. So y is equal to half. So can I change, if I will change the values of x, I am getting values of y. So what is my first point? My first point is 0, 0. what is my next point? Pi by 6 comma half, right? So similarly I will trace some points and then I will simply join all those points and I will get the graph. Okay, whenever you have you can locate a point, it means you have both the coordinates, you can always draw the graph. Okay, simple meaning is for any function you can draw the graph. If function is there, graph you can always draw, right? Okay, now I move on
Yes,
to
sir.
the simple some formula which we will need while discussing this syllabus. Let's take an example. Suppose I have y is equal to sin x. I want to find out the derivative y dash, or simply I will note like this, dy by dx. Okay, so this is d by dx of sin x. Y is nothing but sin x, so d by dx of sin x. Now how you will write? You will write like this. F, what is your derivative? It is limit h tends to 0 f of x plus h minus fx upon h. We already have this formula. What we call this as first principle. Okay, this is called as first principle. Now I am giving you a method, just an example, that how to apply this formula to find out the derivative. Okay, this is called as the first principle. So what you have, limit h tends to 0 sin x plus h minus sin x upon h. Okay, now limit h tends to 0. Can you apply the formula sin a minus sin b here? Yes. What was that formula? 2 times cos a plus b upon 2 into sin a minus b upon 2. If you will go through that section where I discussed about the trigonometric formula, I discussed about a formula that sin a minus sin b, and sin a minus sin b is 2 times cos a plus b by 2 into sin a minus b by 2. Use that formula here. I got this upon h. Okay, so this is your limit h tends to 0, 2 times cos x plus x, 2x plus h upon 2 into, they will cancel and you can write sin h upon 2 upon h. I wrote it down here. Okay, now I can write this as h upon 2, and for that I will have to multiply with half. Why I am doing this? Because I want to bring this in the situation sin theta upon theta. Why I am doing this? Because I will not discuss limits with you. You have a chapter in your mathematics limits and derivatives. Okay, that will be, I think, chapter number 13. So in mathematics class you will come to know that what are limits. Limit itself is a very big topic, so I am not going into that one. I am just using a formula of limits here. Limit theta tends to 0, sin theta upon theta is equal to 1. We have this formula from limits. Again I am telling you, you will come to know about this formula in your mathematics class. Not discussing here. Limits I am not discussing here. Okay. So limit theta tends to 0, sin theta upon theta equals to 1. So I want to bring this in that situation, sin theta upon theta. That's why I divided this by half and therefore multiplied the denominator with 2. Multiplying the denominator with 2 means I am multiplying the whole function by half. Now this 2 and this 2 will get cancelled, and if you now you apply the limits on both the parts, so you have, when you will put h equals to 0, this will become cos x, cos 2x plus 0 upon 2. So cos 2x upon 2, 2 se 2 cancel, cos x, into this will be limit h by 2 tends to 0, sin h by 2 upon h by 2. Here you have limit h tends to 0. As h tends to 0, what about h by 2? जैसे जैसे आपका h 0 होगा, h by 2 क्या होगा? वो भी 0 ही होगा, right? So you can change the limit from h tends to 0 to h by 2 tends to 0, because you want to bring this situation. Now you have limit theta tends to 0 sin theta upon theta. So this value becomes 1. And what is your answer? Cos x. So now what is my formula? Simple. What is my formula? That d by dx of sin x equals to cos x. Okay. So this is my formula, which is obtained from first principle. Actually, all that formulas are obtained from the first principle method, but I will not discuss all of them. You can try yourself in the similar way. I will give you a few formulas which we will need while doing the physics syllabus, and I'm noting it down here quickly. One formula is this: d by dx of sin x is cos x. Then 1, 2 for d by dx of cos x equals to minus sin x. All of them will be obtained by the first principle method. I am not describing all of them. You will discuss this particular thing again in your mathematics class. Then third is d by dx of tan x equals to sec square x. Then fourth, d by dx of cot x is equal to minus cosec square x. Then d by dx of sec x equals to sec x tan x, and d by dx of cosec x equals to minus cosec x cot x. These are the derivatives for the trigonometric formulas, trigonometric functions. Then you have derivative 7, d by dx of x raised to the power n, n x raised to n minus 1. 8th, d by dx of log x equals to 1 by x. 9th, d by dx of exponential function does not change. d by dx of e raised to x is e raised to x itself. Then you have d by dx of a raised to the power x is equal to a raised to x into log e x. Log e, not x, sorry, it should be log e a. Okay, these are different formulas which you will need while doing the syllabus of physics. If any formula is left here, if I suppose I have missed some formula, then when we will go through the syllabus, at that time itself I will tell you that what that formula is. But I tried to accumulate all the formulas which we will require here. I tried to accumulate everyone. Okay, but if anyone is missed, then we can discuss afterwards. Okay, one more thing, one last thing that I want to discuss here in this differentiation part is derivative of suppose you have a combination of functions. Combination means, suppose you want to find out d by dx of sin x plus cos x, or sin x into cos x, or sin x minus cos x, or sin x upon cos x. Means suppose you have these conditions. One is u plus v. Okay. Or you can have d by dx of u minus v, or d by dx of u into v, or d by dx of u divided by v. You have suppose these conditions. Then how you will take the derivative? You take the derivative of u plus take the derivative of v. Means separately you can take the derivative and add them. Okay. Here again d by dx of u minus d by dx of v. Take separately the derivative and just simply subtract them. For product and quotient you have special rules. The derivative here will be, you take the first function d by dx of second function plus second function d by dx of first function. It is not like that simply you take the derivative of both the functions separately and multiply them. It is not like that. You have a special formula first function derivative of second plus second derivative of first. For quotient, you write the denominator square in the denominator, then denominator derivative of numerator minus numerator derivative of denominator. Now here, if you reverse the terms, means if you interchange the terms, it will not change the value because you have addition. But remember the position here, because you have a minus sign, and 2 minus 3 and 3 minus 2 are not same values. In addition, it doesn't matter whether you write this first or this first, it is okay. But here you will have to keep in mind the order. The order is denominator square, denominator derivative of numerator. Derivative of numerator and the product with denominator will be the first term, and then minus the numerator into derivative of denominator. This is a fixed rule. You cannot interchange the position of the terms. Okay. Then we have some more formula. Suppose you have d by dx of c into fx. C is a constant. Then you cannot take the derivative of c, because derivative is rate of change of image with respect to the pre-image. If constant is there, there will be no change in the image. So derivative of a constant is not possible. So you take it outside, and d by dx of fx. Okay. If a constant is multiplied to a function, then simply you take that constant outside and take the derivative of fx. Then d by dx of a constant only will be 0. Derivative of a constant is always 0. Constant term. Okay. Then we have a last thing which I want to discuss is the chain rule, and which is very important. This is my last topic for today, and tomorrow we will start integration. Chain rule is very important. Chain rule means, suppose you want to find out d by dx of sine t. Now see here that the variable in the function is t, but you are taking the derivative with respect to x. So they are different. You cannot take the derivative directly. It is not possible to find the derivative of a function of t with respect to a variable x. It is not possible. So what we do here, what we have to do is d by dx, you will write like this. Suppose your y is sine t and you are finding dy by dx. You want to find out this. This is not possible directly. What you have to do is use this condition. Dy by dx equals to dy by dt into dt by dx. Okay? Dy by dt into dt by dx. So it means that this will become d by dt of sine t into dt by dx. See here, if your dt get cancelled, then you get again dy by dx only. Now can you take the derivative with respect to t? Yes, it is cos t into dt by dx. Now you take the derivative of t with respect to x. I want to give you an example here. Let me give you an example. Suppose you want to find out d by dx of sine x plus 7. Now this is a composite function. Composite function means function of another function. How it is function of another function? What is your variable? X. Your pre-image is x. Your first function is addition of 7 to x. You are adding 7 to x. Second function is you are taking the sine ratio of that function. So first function and second function. This is a function of function. So when you have a function of function, you cannot write the derivative directly, because here it is different and here it is different. You are taking the derivative of a function of x plus 7 with respect to x, which is not possible. They both must be same. So what we will do here, we will write like this. Let x plus 7 equals to t. So your function, your y becomes equals to sine t. Then dy by dx, you can write dy by dt into dt by dx. So this is d by dt of sine t into d by dx of, what was your t? T was x plus 7. So it becomes, derivative of sine t is cos t and derivative of x plus 7 will be d by dx of x plus d by dx of 7. You will take separately, just now I told you. So derivative of 7, this is a constant term, will become 0 and dx by dx will be 1. So you have cos t. Now t was assumed by you, it was not given to you. So you will replace that cos by x plus 7. This is your answer here. Now if suppose it would have been like this, sine x square plus 7, then you would have taken this as t. Now it is like this. Now this value will not become 1, rather it will become d by dx of x square and 7 will be 0. But here you will have d by dx of x square will be 2x using the formula x raised power n. D by dx of x raised power n x raised power n minus 1. So x square d by dx of x square is 2x, 2 minus 1, so it is 2x. Okay, so using this, I wrote this here. So now cos t into x plus x square plus 7 and this 2x will be multiplied here. So the derivative of sine x square plus 7 is 2x into cos x square plus 7. This is your chain rule and this is very important. Okay. Alright. Just 1 minute more I will take. Only 1 more minute. Because I want to tell you the shortcut method of this. The shortcut method to use the this chain rule. This is my own method. Okay. You will not find this in any book. This is my own personal method, how I find out the derivative with the help by means without using the chain rule. You take the inner function as your thumb. Okay, so it becomes sine thumb. I will replace this by sine thumb, and now I can take the derivative of any function of thumb with respect to anything. This is my rule. So d by dx of sine thumb will be cos thumb. Thumb is x square plus 7, and whenever you are using this thumb rule, you will have to always multiply the function by derivative of thumb. What was my thumb here? It was x square plus 7 and derivative of x square plus 7 is 2x plus 0. So this is what this value is, 2x. So the answer is 2x into cos x square plus 7. This is the answer. This way I use. When we will move on, when we will get different situations, there I will use the thumb rule again and again, and you will come to know that how to apply this thumb rule. Tomorrow our topic will be integration. Now if anybody is having any doubt, any question, you can ask me.